You look amazing.
We sit in the woods on a rainy evening with our limited internet and listening to our ospreys scream all day, dreaming of stepping on our boat.
Because we are in remodel mode and fixing up the property to sell, so we can buy that boat. We vicariously have been watching all these sailing channels and dreaming of distant shores and open seas.
Cruising World states that there are about 800 sailing channels on YouTube, and only a handful of successful ones.
There are a lot of sailing channels that we like, and there are a lot of sailings we dislike. Probably more dislike than like, but that's beside the point. We kind of like the channels that feel like they align with where we are right now in our lives. Some of these channels try and pivot into doing other things on their channel and thinking that their personalities will keep them relevant. Sailing Uma has gone through a lot of changes in their 7 years of making content on YouTube. Recently they just tried to pivot into rock climbing and they stated they weren't a sailing channel. But they are a sailing channel. All the YouTube channels that are designed to help creators make content for YouTube, one of the things they always keep driving home is make your videos for the viewer, you guys. As a new channel, well, and this is basically one of our new videos, we've been vicariously living, watching, learning, trying to understand all these different sailing channels, trying to understand how to make the best possible video we can. We're trying to learn what works on their videos, what doesn't work on their videos, what platform they're using, and what we like and dislike about their boats, so that when we do start physically looking at boats, we can go in and say, well, no, we don't want that one, or we really want this one. We've been shaping our decisions based on the experience we've, probably like you guys, from watching YouTube, even if they've tried to pivot into rock climbing.
It's important to remember that even though we think of some of these people as YouTube stars, they are just people. Like the rest of us, we're all just trying to make a living and get through life. We have broken down the 5 types of sailing channels. Lifers that have been sailing for years and years and years
and years.
They have a channel that works, so they keep making their tiny little boat work and sail around the world. The next channel is a remodel and build channel. They take an old boat that they got for a song and they build it into their dreams, or they are just building their own boat.
Number 3 is the Affluent boater. They're showing you their $500,000, their $1 million, their $3 million boat that they have commissioned to have built, or they're buying, or whatever. And they're making their money either through YouTube, affiliates, sponsorship, or they're coming from extremely wealthy families to get them going. And they're showing you how they're going to go off and buy a more expensive boat.
Number 4 is the baby family channel. They have their newborn or their newborns or their 4 kids or their teenagers. This channel is about life on the seas, raising kids, and the issues that they have while being on the seas, raising kids in a small space.
The last one is the info channel that is about, about products, education, promos, less about a vlog or a lifestyle, and more of a DIY, just happens to be about boats. Buying boats. Things to do with boats. Lots of boats. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty of what we like and dislike about each one of these 4 categories. Buckle up, here we go.
What we like and dislike about the Lifer channels. Many of these channels had humbling beginnings, or at least what looked like humbling beginnings. They had a dream and they went for it. Some had lots of experience sailing and some didn't.
The constant in most of the Lifers channel is this hodgepodge mixture of various aspects of what they go through sailing. One day they're visiting an epic cove and swimming and chasing dolphins, and the next day they're pulling a boat out of the harbor because it needs new everything. The variety is the spice of life, or what these channels are made of. It's not the same thing every single time. They explain what it's like to truly be on a liveaboard cruising sailing. Where they don't really go into much detail is how, at least on the successful channels, how much money they're really making from YouTube, AdSense, sponsorship, affiliates, and the really big one, their Patreon accounts. Now, granted, we hope to be in this category someday on our channel. We hope someday. We hope to make a true living with this channel. We are trying to ask the question in each of our videos, are we bringing value? And then the other thing we're asking is, are we bringing value with our channel as a whole?
The builders, the remodels, the total refits, we really don't have a lot of dislikes. We really like these channels because this is what we do for a living. It's just not what we always want to watch. Let's look at sailing channels as a whole. Most sailing channels, there has to be a level of affluence that allows someone or a couple or a family to go out and buy a sailboat and live full time on their boat. We have a level of affluence. Kurt is a disabled veteran, and we receive disability from the Veterans Affairs for his disabilities from military service. Without this, it would be very hard or difficult for us to plan our sailing adventure.
The people that are buying that, that $3 million boat or that $1.5 million boat, or even that $500,000 boat, it's expensive. It's kind of like watching Top Gear. Yes, I would love a Bugatti Veyron. Who wouldn't? But watching those guys on Top Gear, those two, and what Caleb refers to as the Muppet, Jeremy Clarkson, most of the sailing channels are not showcasing the Bugatti or their $1.2 million boat for 2 minutes and then racing motorhomes around a track being idiots. We watch the antics and the entertainment. That's why we watch. They're showing their $1 million boat over and over and over, and they're showing their $1 million problems and issues that they have having $1 million boat. It's so unrelatable. All right, let's talk about the kids, the babies. And I hear they grow up and they become teenagers. I remember myself as a teenager. I didn't like myself then either. I hate to say it, but we don't really care. We don't have kids. We're not going to have kids. And I think that if we ever really decide we need to get a kid, we'll rent to own. We'll see how they do. And if they're not good, we'll send them back.
It doesn't work like that.
Okay, fine, no kids. We understand that having a kid on a sailboat brings crazy challenges you have to figure out. But we don't really like most kids, and they're sticky. They do come with very small hands, which is helpful, but they're not employable. Basically, what we're saying is we don't really enjoy watching channels about raising kids on a sailboat. We want to watch channels about sailing. Not that this can't be entertaining and of interest to people, it's just not for us.
Yeah. The last one is the info channel. There's some really good channels out there that give a lot of information about buying a boat or new widgets that everyone needs or has to have. Our love for these channels comes from the fact that they have mass amounts more knowledge than us about sailing. Our dislike or hate is that many of these channels are really one-sided. The problem is that each sailboat wears a different hat, and when you try to compare this to that, you run into apples to oranges. Granted, everything in the boating world is a compromise, but to say that there is only one answer is kind of insulting. Like most things in our lives, We do research, we contemplate, we dissect, we weigh our options, and then we pick a direction and take off in a full sprint, knowing that we can always stop and pick a new direction and start running again. The big news! We paid off our property. We finally own our own land, our little island in the middle of the forest.
Now let's sell it and buy a boat.
Woo! The last thing could really fit into any of these categories. You know, we know sex sells. But when you see a channel and their thumbnail shot is of a thonged girl swimming through the water, sitting on a beach, laying back on the deck, or some overly sexualized thumbnail to get some middle-aged guy to click, and it has very little to do with sailing. Sorry, we get turned off. But good for them. They found something that works.
We are not saying that being in a bikini is bad. I will be the first one to tell you that bikinis are awesome. But if you're trying to get people to watch your videos just because you're in a bikini, we don't really like those channels. Now, this is new. I have voted. And I have won. And Allie will be in a bikini or nothing.
We'll see.
So as we're making this transition from our mountain life into selling our property, into looking and eventually finding our boat, we are vicariously living through our favorite sailing channels. We are glad they are out there. We are glad they are creating their content. We are really trying to figure out our niche and how do we convey the value in our videos that you, the viewer, and also us, the viewer, would really like to see.